Welcome to the Your Brain Shift podcast, where we explore topics that promote mindset shifts and brain shifts for greater success, health and wellness, and fulfillment. I'm Keith Engelhardt, and today we'll be exploring a replay of one of the Your Brain Shift Clubhouse rooms. Hi everyone, I'm Keith Engelhardt, your Chief Success Officer. I'm also the founder and CEO of Sawat Solutions and Neuro Yoga Zone. With a number of offerings, I help you and your organization evolve and accelerate and exponentially increase your success. I do this because too many people struggle with success. So I provide evidence-based, neuroscience-based, and positive intelligence-based programs that give you the knowledge and skills to be more successful. I also provide neuroscience-based stress reduction and anxiety reduction programs, since both are major impediments to one's success, whether that's as an individual or an organization. So why wouldn't you want to find out how to be more successful? So if you'd like to book a one-on-one session to learn more, I've pinned a link to the top of the room. So again, welcome to Your Brain Shift. And this week's room, are you leveraging mirroring and modeling for greater success? We'll be meeting today for about an hour or so, maybe more or less, depending on how many people attend and where the subject and conversation take us. I appreciate you taking the time and spending your life energy to join me today. And I promise to make it worth your effort and time. Replays are on. If you're unable to stay for the whole journey, just circle back to listen to the replay. And I encourage you to revisit this session again to nudge your brain regarding the content. Review is the foundation of retention, recall, and mastery. Also, feel free to share the room with others. Sharing is caring, so help spread the content to foster greater success and fulfillment in the world. Also, if you're not a member of the Your Brain Shift Club, join us as well as follow me to keep abreast of this club's rooms and my other club and its rooms, the Positivity Pod. If you're not a member of the club, you can just join by clicking the green house next to the title of the room, and that will get you in as a member, and also following me will be a way to be notified of future rooms, especially if you click the little bell next to be notified when I'm launching rooms. So I'd like to start my rooms with a bit of a neuro nudge that comes from Alan Cooper. It's an ancient Cherokee word, and that word is konobusuko. And its meaning is letting go of your cherished misconceptions. So during our time today, I'd like you to kind of be challenged with that konobusuko. Let go of your cherished misconceptions about what you know about success, not just today, but every day. So, how many times have you thought about picking up a new skill, whether it was perfecting your jump shot to be as proficient as Michael Jordan, or learning a new language or a new skill? And most people aren't familiar with a simple technique, yet extremely powerful one, that if you haven't heard about it or mastered it, you may be missing out on a fast track to proficiency and success. So let's take that example of perfecting your jump shot in basketball in order to achieve it. If you mimic the actions and techniques of, for example, Michael Jordan, you'll be well on your way to accelerating your proficiency at the skill, mastering it, and achieving greater success. In fact, that's what he said he did to perfect his technique. He mirrored and modeled and practiced the techniques and skills of others that he saw were succeeding in an area that maybe he struggled with. When we do this, we're leveraging the actual learning from others and their successes, and we take advantage of some of our own natural brain biology. We have what are called mirror neurons that make this mirroring or modeling process very natural. These mirror neurons are specific neurons first discovered in an experiment conducted on monkeys, and an attempt to try and explain their learning process, since they don't read books and get information from the same input schemes that humans have. So the experiment showed that neurons in the brain are fired when those monkeys or us, for example, observe an activity, as well as when we perform it, or in this case, in the study, the monkeys performed it. This is a basic function that we all utilized earlier in life to master anything. So when we were learning a language, for example, or just how to navigate the world around us as an infant or a toddler, we mirrored the utterances when it came into learning a language or how to do certain things. We mirrored and mimicked the behavior of the people that we saw doing those tasks. So when we utilize those mirror neurons, we're actually strengthening those pathways by observing and the exercising and using those mirror neurons. So in simple terms, mirroring and modeling is literally precisely matching parts or all of what we observe in another person's behavior or actions. When you mirror others, you are literally training your nervous system into performing the motions and actions, especially when we do it over and over again. Repetition is one of the foundations of success. But when we mirror others, we're laying the groundwork for a neural pathway. Let's say you're tired of just kind of throwing darts at figuring out how to do a jump shot, for example. So if you instead decide to watch videos of Michael Jordan and paying attention to every detail of what he goes through to master and execute that jump shot, your brain will register this and therefore train itself by firing what are called action potentials across those mirror neurons. So this can be a very powerful way to master something, especially when it comes to it involving movement or some physical activity. For example, we never learned to ride a bike by reading a book. We actually have to engage ourselves in that activity. And if we watch what others are doing, we can kind of get a sense of the pedaling motion and the techniques that may be involved in riding a bike. Now, some of it, you actually physically have to do it to sort out that internal kinesthetic experience of balance and so forth. But there's a great deal in life that we can master by mirroring and modeling others. It can be quite beneficial as long as we choose the skills, actions, or behaviors of others that work and that can serve us, rather than maybe mirroring bad behaviors, for example. So mirroring others can accelerate your success versus the trial and error that might otherwise be necessary to learn something when we want to master anything in life. So in the book, Steal Like an Artist, the author presents 10 transformative principles that will help readers of the book discover their artistic side, for example, and build a more creative life and mastering creativity by mirroring or modeling the creativity and technique of others. And if we think about it, nothing really is original, that we've kind of learned or mastered things, whether we realized it or not, by mirroring and modeling others. So why not make the conscious choice and essentially sort of influence or school yourself through the work of others. You can remix, reimagine those techniques to kind of discover your own path. Hi, Midnight. Welcome to the room. We're kind of exploring some concepts around leveraging mirroring and modeling to achieve skills or knowledge or mastery at anything in life and accelerate doing so. So essentially, we can borrow or steal skills from others while making them our own as you tweak them to fit your own unique situations, intentions, and desired outcomes. So sometimes mastering things can be extremely difficult, and especially if we're trying things through trial and error. So why might make life unnecessarily difficult? If you want to know how to do something, find someone or some people who are already good at that thing and ask them how they did it, or study them and make observations about what they're doing that makes them successful and what you also want to accomplish. And then ask yourself, how can I make it work for me? Might require a few little tweaks here and there. So, for example, if I'm trying to mirror and model Michael Jordan, he might be taller than I am. So I might have to adjust whatever technique or skill that I'm observing in him to fit my stature. But essentially, as I mentioned, mirroring and modeling is actually how we learned in our early years. It's how every infant and toddler learns. They mirror and model what they see their caregivers and others in their lives are demonstrating with their behaviors and actions. Even in the case of learning a language, we mirror or model the utterances or what is being spoken to us. So there are some additional tools and techniques that we can leverage for mirroring and modeling. I'll kind of go through them. These are actually borrowed from NLP strategies, and they can be extremely powerful. And one of the best ways to get good and mastering something. It can be as simple as asking questions, choosing points that will lead to understanding what that individual is doing or has done to master a particular skill. So useful questions to elicit strategies include, and they could be explored multiple times in depth because, especially when it comes to complex skills, it may have layers to it, is ask them, how do they do something, or how do you know when to, for example. And if it involves detailed steps, we can ask, well, tell me more, or what happens next? What happened before this particular step in the technique? The whole point is to go to them rather than throw darts and figure things out. Some of the most successful people on the planet literally reached out to someone that they admired or knew had a certain level of proficiency when it comes to knowledge and understanding. One that comes to mind is Tai Lopez. When he wanted to master investment strategies, he aimed high. He literally reached out and asked Charlie Munger, one of the most successful people on the planet and a multi-billionaire, to teach him his investment strategies. Well, it didn't happen on the first ask. However, he was persistent, and eventually Munger agreed, and the rest is history. Now, Tai Lopez is a multimillionaire, and he shortcutted the process by going to somebody that was extremely proficient with a skill like investing and literally asked him how he went about it. So that can also be not just learning what works, but what doesn't work, what to avoid. We can literally avoid some of our own errors and mistakes and barriers to the speed of mastery at anything by learning from someone else's mistakes. So a suggested exercise is to choose something that you want to change. It could be learning something or changing a behavior, and reach out and ask someone for their input. And we can also explore just imagining them and performing what it is that we want to do. If you just sit comfortably and imagine watching and listening to that individual, if it was a musician, we're listening to their performance, and we can, in addition to observing their technique, we can also imagine performing like that person. It doesn't have to be in their presence and with them live, we can actually play a movie. A lot of proficiencies are demonstrated on YouTube these days. Or use your imagination. Play a movie in your mind of them performing. Imagine yourself getting into rapport with them as they perform and creating what they're creating or performing what they're performing. Imagination is extremely powerful. We know that the brain and body doesn't know the difference between actually perceiving something that's going on externally to us or it's in our mind's eye, so to speak, imagining it. Sports figures use this all the time, that they can sit and just mentally visualize shooting hoops, for example, and versus somebody that doesn't do anything at all, literally improve their proficiency and performance. And then when you marry the two together, visualizing it and observing and practicing whatever technique that they're doing, it will exponentially accelerate your mastery of the skill. Keep in mind that it's never one and done, that we need to repeat. Repetition is the mother of success. So we need to repeat what we're exploring enough times, not only just to feel comfortable with whatever we're pursuing, but also enhance our performance of it. So other techniques that we can do is match and mirror, that we match the exact footwork that somebody might be using in a dance step, or the physical posture or stance of somebody if we're exploring, trying to master a golf shot or whatever. So the first step is to decide what you would like to model, what skills and capabilities that you would like to develop, and then who do you want to model or mirror. And these techniques, believe it or not, work best when you set your sights high, set your person you want to learn from as the top, from the top of their game. As I mentioned, Tai Lopez thought big. He reached out to one of the, if not the most successful investor on the planet, Charlie Munger, and mirrored and modeled what he was doing. So it may take a little bit of dialogue, getting to know them, so that they'll be open to arranging a meeting. You might be surprised who will actually commit if you demonstrate genuine interest and avoid, stalking them. For example, you want to establish at least a little bit of a relationship and rapport with them. And you might actually be shocked on who will agree to assist you in your journey. When you do a little bit of footwork, do some preparation, have some questions that you want to ask, what might not be making any sense for you in your learning journey, and have the questions prepped. Hi, Tranquility. Welcome to the room. We're exploring various techniques for leveraging mirroring and modeling for greater success. I'll invite you to the stage. So if you want to ask some questions when we get to a pause point, you can. So if you choose to have sort of an interview or a mentoring session with someone, remember to listen attentively, take notes, show genuine interest, don't waste their time. And since you've chosen them because they're quite good at what they do, let them know. And if there's any confidentiality layers involved, respect those, keep any confidences that are important to them. So there's all kinds of questions that you can explore related to, the environment that might be necessary for learning the skill, the behaviors that are involved, the capabilities. This one is certainly one worth exploring, is beliefs, because a lot of what impedes us from mastering things in life are our unconscious beliefs. Related to environment, sort of an environmental question will be asked them: when and where did they do whatever skill that you're wanting to explore and learn? Related to behaviors, what specifically do you do? And if you're going to teach me to do it, what would you ask me? So they are usually a little bit further down the road in the journey of what you want to learn. So why not, pull that layer out of them instead of just kind of throwing darts with your questions? And then, especially with the complexity of the modern world, there might be some capabilities that are necessary. So in the capabilities category of questions, a question to ask might be: what skills do you have that enable you to do this, whatever you fill in the blank, whatever it is you're trying to learn from them? And how did they learn to do it? And then the beliefs, as I mentioned, are real important hurdles to overcome, because we all have unconscious beliefs that we picked up from our cultural containers that kind of get in the way of our success. So anybody, no matter what their level of proficiency, even the most successful people on the planet have some of those same challenges of beliefs. So both positive and negative. So a question might be to ask: what do you believe about yourself when you do, whatever you want to fill in the blank with? Or what do you believe as the person seeking that skill or ability? What do you believe about the person you're evaluating? Because you might even have some things that are in roadblocks. And then other questions would include: how do you know when you're good at? You get to fill in the blank. What emotional or physical state are you in when you do that? That sometimes is extremely important. And what happened for you when you accomplished this or got good at it? What are you trying to achieve when you, again, fill in the blank? And this one's really important: who else do you recommend I talk to learn? And you get to fill in the blank. You want to make the questions sort of open-ended like that, so that you can pull more information instead of just like yes, no answer or simple answers. Now note that when you have more experience doing this and the questions become automatic, you get more and more rapport established with who you're talking to, and much deeper valuing or valuable information. So another technique for exploring mirroring and modeling comes from Marshall Goldsmith's book Feed Forward, or technique Feed Forward. Feed Forward is an approach developed by Goldsmith, and it overcomes the challenge that is in normal circumstances when we're not maybe quite so open to take feedback or giving feedback. For an in-depth read on the technique, His book is What Got You Here Won't Get You There. And again, the author is Marshall Goldsmith. He's actually one of the top coaches for CEOs and top executives. So to start with, the feed forward technique has 2 steps. Pick one behavior that if you changed it, you would experience significant development in your life. So it could be something like, I want to be a better listener. And then the second step is to describe this objective in a one-on-one dialogue with whoever you want to learn from. It could be, anybody in life, your husband, your wife, your boss, your best friend, your coworker. It could even be a total stranger. The person you choose is not necessarily relevant. It could be somebody that has mastered listening skills, and you want to go to them to get that skill honed as quick as you can. But almost anyone that knows what listening means can be a source for picking up different strategies. You don't have to be an expert or seek out an expert to know what good listening means. Most people kind of have an intuitive sense for that. So sometimes, especially with something like listening or personal behaviors, some of the truest advice comes from strangers. And when it comes to learning and mastery for modeling and mirroring, we really don't have to be too particular about who the source is. As I mentioned, going to an expert or somebody that we admire with that particular skill certainly will often provide greater information, but don't limit yourself to just people, because the reality is, because of the difficulty of connecting with the person might be a little bit more challenging. Don't let that limit you from pursuing the path of mirroring and modeling. So when we're in dialogue with that person, third technique in the Goldsmith's feed forward process is to ask that person for 2 suggestions for the future that might help you achieve whatever positive change that you want to explore. And especially if you're working or talking with someone who knows you or has worked with you in the past, the only ground rule is that there be no mention of the past, because sometimes there's baggage or doors we don't want to open and get in the way of the knowledge or skill that we're wanting to explore. Everything, the focus should be about the future. For example, if you say, I want to be better at finding good clients, would you suggest 2 ideas or techniques for that? If you were in my position, what might you do to find new clients? It's a future focus, not a past focus. And you might be surprised. The other person might suggest, first, I'd find an excuse to drop a note to all my previous clients, asking them for a brief catch-up session. Second, I might find 6 people who appeared to be good at attracting clients and ask them if they would share their approaches that they use. Notice that last suggestion ties in with the mirroring and modeling and reaching out to somebody that maybe not have been on our immediate radar for getting information that we can mirror or model. And again, the golden rule, no matter who you're having a conversation with, is to listen attentively to their suggestions, take notes. Your only ground rules are that you're not allowed to judge, rate, critique the suggestions in any way. You can't even say something positive like, "Oh, that's a good idea." The only response that you want to permit yourself is to say thank you. You want to keep it an open playing field for getting information. After the fact, then you can kind of digest to see what techniques or information kind of work with you, which things that fit you, your approach in life, your core values, and the things that you would want to mirror and model. But don't make any judgments or critique in that process when you're getting information from them. The idea is to be genuinely grateful for their effort and their time. Be aware that some of the ideas that they might have initially, that you might have initially dismissed, actually turn out to be the most useful. So I'll invite people to the stage here if you want to ask questions or have comments to the concept of mirroring and modeling when it comes to learning anything in life and leveraging those techniques for greater success. So, Tranquility, if the technology is working, should get an invite to come to the stage if you'd like to comment or ask questions. If not, in summary, we've explored kind of my golden rule is konobusugo. No matter what you're wanting to explore, letting go of your most cherished misconceptions, and that mirroring and modeling actually are very intuitive processes that we've all pursued when it came to learning. As an infant and a toddler, we mirrored and modeled most everything that we learned. It wasn't until we got to the educational systems that we were kind of maybe nudged out of that as a natural process that we relied a little bit more on books and other sources of information. But it hasn't been that long ago in human history that when you wanted to pick up any skill or master anything in life, you went to somebody that was a mentor or a master for that skill. In the 15th century, if I want to learn painting, I learned that by going to a master and being an apprentice. Hi, Renee. Welcome to the room. I'll invite you to the stage as well if you'd like to kind of have questions or comments around leveraging, mirroring, and mastering to achieve greater success. So, as I mentioned, mirroring and mastering, or modeling rather, were intuitive processes when we were a lot younger, but those skills have been kind of honed out of us. So it'll take some time and practice and repetition to explore it. But by strengthening your mirroring and modeling superpowers, you can achieve greater results and success as well as fulfillment. We won't be as frustrated when it comes to mastering certain skills. So again, I'll open the floor for any kind of questions or comments that people might have.
Hi, Keith. It's Renee. So I'm not even sure. I just jumped in here, so I want to listen a little bit longer to understand more about what you're talking about.
Okay. Well, I'll do a quick recap for you since you just joined us late in life, or the room rather, and fundamental question is how many times have you thought about picking up a new skill? The example I explored was perfecting your jump shot and desiring to be proficient as Michael Jordan, or it could be, just about anything in life, learning a language, learning how to play an instrument, or whatever. And it hasn't crossed your mind, why not mirror or model what they're doing? It's actually how Michael Jordan gained the proficiency of skills that he has. He had, like anybody else in life, he might have been good at one particular strategy or move in basketball, but he had some weak points. So he would literally study and learn from the players that were quite good at the areas that he had a deficiency in, and mirrored and modeled their footwork, technique, movements, gestures, or whatever, timing, rhythm. So it's something that we do naturally when we're infants and toddlers, because it's how we pick up any kind of information. We mirrored and modeled the utterances when it came to learning a language that the people around us were making. So when we hit our educational paradigms, it was kind of nudged out of us that we were relying on books and other sources of information. Well, you can't learn to do a jump shot by reading a book. You can't learn how to ride a bike by reading a book. That there's some things that literally are better learned by mirroring and modeling. Another example I shared was Tai Lopez. He wanted to master investments, and he was dead broke, had $45 in his checking account, was sleeping on the sofa at a relative's house, but he wanted to get into the investment field, and he literally reached out to one of the most successful investors on the planet, and that happened to be Charlie Munger. Munger didn't agree the first ask, but he was polite and persistent and demonstrated he was genuinely interested in learning from him. So Munger agreed, and the rest is history. Ty is now a multimillionaire. But he took a kind of a shortcut path. Instead of trying to read dozens and dozens of books, he went to somebody that was extremely proficient at something and mirrored and modeled what he did. So that's the general concept that we were discussing. So.
It's actually a great topic for me, Keith, because this is right where I'm at. The second example, that's not physical. I'm wanting to write a book, and the topic of the book, well, not the topic, but the general topic, I guess, is just business practices. But since I'm starting over, and I know there's one train of thought that's like, just do what other people tell you and show you and model what they're doing, or one specific person. I guess that's what you were saying in the example of Tai Lopez, that I'm like, well, I could get lost in the shuffle here. And also then I'm just proving that I can do it in one area. But my idea is, why not take all of us along on the journey, and so make it a collective process and a collective practice where I'm the case study, I'm living it out loud, and other people can follow the journey and participate in the journey as we go along. So
that's actually awesome. Yeah, because it doesn't have to be one individual, and it might help to start out with as you get comfortable with the technique, especially with some of the questioning that I explored. So you may want to circle back and listen to the replay to get a couple of the techniques that I mentioned in there. But you're absolutely right. It can be a collective, and if others are in a similar parallel journey, they're going to have questions or observations that I may not think of or miss. So why not leverage that pool of others on the same journey, and for that matter, without making it too much of complexity, is you can mirror and model from other people, because it's exactly what Jordan did. One particular player might have one particular move or technique that he wanted to master, so he would mirror and model them, and then another player had something else that he wanted to learn or master, so he modeled them. So it's kind of up to you how complex you make that, but the point is that instead of reinventing the wheel, is why not go to somebody that has a skill that we want to accomplish, and decrease the amount of time that it takes to master something. We're also leveraging our own brain biology of leveraging our mirror neurons, and the other layer to that is to learn from their mistakes, what to avoid, instead of throwing darts and discovering them for ourselves.
I just wrote
So
down as the make sure to remember to ask them about their mistakes, because it's easy enough to be like, well, this is how you do it, but it's like, and then I made these mistakes, because I can sure talk to that. But what I hear with this Michael Jordan piece, though, is like the physical repetition, getting it in the physical body.
Yeah, that's certainly going to be there. That anything that involves movement of the body, riding a bike, driving a race car, shooting jump shots. I just picked that example because Jordan's quite open about sharing that the way he mastered a lot of his techniques and got to be the ball player he did was from mirroring and modeling people that he admired that had a particular skill. But it can be, as you mentioned, the business process and so forth. And regarding learning from people's mistakes, since I used the example of Charlie Munger, he's got a mental technique that he calls inversion that is been one of his reasons for the greatest success. And the inversion is, if I wanted to totally bankrupt myself and fail in life, what would I do? Figure out what that would be and then avoid it. Don't do it. And that's the way he kind of on his own figured out what things to avoid, what mistakes to avoid, is his own internal logic process of doing an inversion. But you're absolutely right. And I kind of pointed out that earlier, when we're choosing skills, actions, and behaviors of others to mirror, is we want to choose the ones that work and that can serve us and that can accelerate our success versus, what didn't work for them in life. So anyone else want to come to the stage, ask questions, comment? Well, if not, we'll kind of wrap it up. If you joined us a little later, I encourage you to visit the replay. And keep in mind, when we're learning any new skill, whether it be mirroring and modeling, keep in mind that it takes repeated practice to rewire or repattern our brains to any new mode of functioning, so that it becomes a new default. Repetition is the mother of success. So both of the techniques that we explored today aren't overly complex, but it does take some time and some exploration to get comfortable with, or we can pedal the bicycle without having to think about it. So with this new awareness, I know you'll want to implement it in your daily life, especially when it comes to learning something new. And it's influencing your choices in life, and that you'll join the room again and follow me to know about future rooms, as well as learning other your brain shift techniques for greater success, fulfillment, and possibilities in life. If you're not already a member of your Brain Shift Club, join us. If you'd like to book a free one-on-one session with me to explore your unique journey, the link to do that's up at the top of the room. After all, why wouldn't you want to find out more about how to achieve the success and life potential that is your natural birthright? So thank you for attending. I look forward to seeing you in future rooms. Remember to revisit the replay, take notes on things that you might have missed, as well as share the room with others. And sharing is caring. So I hope to see you in future rooms.